As you may all know, water is the most valuable resource on the planet. It sustains life, and without it, Earth's plants and creatures would just die out. Because my partner and I value the availability of water, we support the resolution that water should be considered national property. To clear up what we mean, basically, what we're saying is that water should be owned by the public, either the government or on a small scale, the individuals who occupy
Before I get started, I would like to define an important term. Water Parliament, which is a supranational entity that would determine laws and regulations that determine proper usage of the world's water supply in order to prevent deprivation of safe, clean water to any nation who may have a corrupt or apathetic government that does not work in the interest or well-being of its people. Currently, each country holds its own laws and regulations and dispenses water as it feels it's necessary to the people who live there. This may sound like a freedom of decision for individual countries, but what about countries who share a body of water? Many nations rely on rivers that provide a border from other countries and are important for sustaining life in both. So how one country decides to take care of its water may be completely different from how the other.
Control over water rights would mean that the country would control the water and or surrounding it. This is the system that is currently established by several countries, such as the United States and Canada. Water rights and control play a large part in a country's economy. Nationalization of water allows a country to benefit and help strengthen its economy. Trade, agriculture, and energy production all use water. If we allow a country to have national control of water, we allow that country to invest in economic growth. Revenue from these things can help sustain the economies of countries who have little other natural resources and sources of revenue. Nationalization encourages free enterprise by allowing the government to make contracts with the private company of their choice. More free enterprise would mean more people starting their own business and once again allowing economic competition.
We're here to oppose the argument that water should be considered national property. Access to clean, drinkable water is a right that should be denied to no human being. I would like to define some key terms. Water right refers to the right of any individual to the use of water, be it from a stream, pond, groundwater source, lake, or river. First, individual nations should not have unchallenged control over water resources. This has often led to the abuse of shared water supplies. A polluted river will not fail to continue its flow downstream into other rivers, through other countries, and eventually into shared waters such as oceans and seas. The same thing can happen when a government dams up a river or begins doing groundwater pumping. This is even worse than pollution because those downstream are left without water to drink, water for fish, and water for irrigation. This is particularly a problem in undeveloped areas such as rural Africa. And my second contention is that water resources should not be privatized. While privatization can lead to isolated economic growth, I do not believe that this will be beneficial on a global level. Those dependent on the water in question. Did you state that by controlling water nationally, that country would be able to prosper economically through competition?
Yes. If a country controls its own water, they can gain revenue from trade, things like tourism even, and all the money can go back into the country's economy.
Would it be difficult to compete with water when the water is controlled only by the single government?
Individual businesses could compete for contracts with the government.
By contracting private businesses, aren't you transferring the control of our water over to private sectors?
Technically the control is still nationalism because it's government contracts and not actually private companies contracting private companies.
If our opponents and I agree on one thing, it is that privatization would not be good for the management of water. However, where we disagree is while they think that one big supranational organization would be able to handle it better, we think that it should be left in control of the public, the government. As I stated, this has worked, in the United States, Canada, other modern westernized countries. This is how the system works, and it's worked perfectly well. And there's no reason to give it over to a big United Nations-run organization that would just be prone to corruption, take water from one country, give it to another, and exploit the system.
The National Assembly could provide aid from willing countries and give a better standard of living to people in places like Central and South America, Africa, Asia, and with a better chance for proper and sanitary living conditions for all these people, something that we all take for
If you took that away, wouldn't the global economy see great